Hello and welcome to The Big Fight. Now, if there's one theme that we keep returning to on The Big Fight, it's the question that the Indian governments, of course, had to confront for several decades now. It's a problem that no one is completely sure what to do about. And that problem, of course, is Pakistan. Now, should you be talking to Pakistan, not talking to Pakistan? Should you be cooperating with them in terrorism or putting them in the dock as a sponsor for terrorism? Or should you, as happened this week, actually inviting a Pakistani team across to help India investigate a terror attack, and that at the same time as you're seeing China, presumably hand in hand with Pakistan, blocking the actual banning of the Jaish chief, Masood Azhar, the person ostensibly behind Pathankot, and he's been stopped from being banned as a terrorist leader. So lots to talk about, and this at a time when Pakistan is parading a particular man and saying he's a raw agent whom they have caught and they're accusing him of terrorism. So what do we make of all of this, and what's the right way forward? What should be done? What should not be done? Sambit Patra joining us from the BJP. We have Manish Shankaraya, senior Congress leader, whose views on how to deal with Pakistan are not always exactly the same as that of the rest of the Congress party, I have to say, but we're still going to get you to take the Congress view here. G. Parthasarathy, former High Commissioner to Pakistan, so knows what it is to deal with what I'm calling the Pakistan problem. RSN Singh is a former RAW officer, strategic analyst, who might give us some insight as to Mr. Yadav is raw or not raw, because that's really what's been trending in Pakistan all week long. Dr. Brahma Chelani, of course, one of our top strategic thinkers, professor of strategic studies at the Center for Policy Research. And we're about to be joined just a short while from now from Islamabad by Vice Air Chief Marshal Shahzad Chaudhary, who's a strategic affairs expert. All right, let's just first, before we get to Kulbhushan Yadav and Pakistan's own accusations about India, let's just jump straight into what's actually happening with this Pathankot investigation. And let's just quickly take a couple of minutes to tell you the very latest in the developments there, because this is a fast-moving story. All right, Sambit. Now, here you have a situation, and I guess what's happening with Pakistan is one of the problems that political parties face when they've been in the opposition and they come back into power, because a lot of what you're saying right now are exactly the same things that the BJP in general and Narendra Modi in particular used to pillory the Congress party for when they were in power and you were in opposition. So this entire question of whether you should be talking to Pakistan at all, whether you should be having a Pakistani team coming here, questioning Indian officials, including questioning Indian IPS officers, when it has been India's position that they're the guys who are behind it all in the first place.
There are three broad principles. Number one, that yes, we want peace and we want dialogue to take place between India and Pakistan, and that's the reason as to why Mr. Modi, day one, when he was into his swearing-in ceremony, he had invited the Pakistani Premier Nawaz Sharif. Number two, talks and terror cannot move together. Number three, that it has to be bilateral. There can be no third interference as far as talk between India and Pakistan is concerned. And this government has consistently adhered to these three broad principles as far as India-Pakistan dialogue is concerned, India-Pakistan engagement is concerned. Okay, now coming to the specifics of your
what would you say if somebody was to say, yeah, Sambit, so what would you say if somebody was to say, should any protocol be followed with people who have beheaded our soldiers? This is akin to rubbing salt on the wounds of the nation. India must give it back to the terrorists in the only way that they understand. Would you agree with a statement like that?
No, in fact, we are giving back. The retaliation is at its best. If in fact in the line of control they have fired, the retaliation has been in fact rightful. We have given more than what they had given us in retaliation. But As far as terrorism is concerned, as far as this particular question of whether a JIT should have been allowed into this country or not, and what changed between the Congress regime and our regime, because you began your question by saying that the same rhetorics have been followed by you. I would say no. Let's compare 2611 with Pathankot, because I think these are the two comparables which we have to look into.
I'm giving you the
2611, Pakistan denied. Pakistan denied. Pakistan said that
Pakistan
no,
still denying. Pakistan and China yesterday blocked the naming of Masood Azhar as a terrorist. This happened yesterday. Who's not in denial? China wouldn't have done that on its own if Pakistan hadn't asked for it. Of course, Pakistan asked for it. And the reason I asked you that question is this particular statement. Our foreign minister went to Jaipur and served biryani for Pakistani guests, saying it is part of the protocol. Should any protocol be followed with people who have beheaded our soldiers? This is akin to rubbing salt on the wounds of the nation. This particular statement was actually made by Narendra Modi in Hyderabad in August 2013.
So
what has changed between 2013 and 2016?
I mean, what are you calling as protocol?
I'm calling if you say that a Pakistani JIT team sitting in Pathankot questioning an Indian police officer.
That is what you are calling as protocol.
No, I'm just simply questioning whether you're not inviting the same, somebody comes in and burgles your house and you're calling that person and saying, just will you come here and question my the people who are working in my house and I'll see whether they may have stolen it by mistake. I think that's the point I'm trying to make.
I mean, look, after Pathankot, for the first time, Pakistan traveled from deniability, it has always been in a denial mode, to acceptability that, well, yes, perpetrators were from our side, let's investigate, let's punish those who are on our side. Let me complete it, thereafter you can cross-question. Vikram, let me complete a few sentences, let me take a few questions of yours, thereafter you can cross-examine. The aim of Indian government is to see to it that the perpetrators of this dastardly act, what happened in Pathankot, are punished in Pakistan, because there's where they live. So naturally, the legal requirements have to be fulfilled. What is the legal requirement? The legal requirement is, as in 2012, a judicial commission had come to India, including the lawyer of Lakhvi, to question the prosecution witness over here. Similarly, there is a JIT which has come over here to India, not to investigate, remember, but to cooperate in the investigation. So the Indian government has extracted cooperation from Pakistan. They would be given the evidences, which they have been. Only about few minutes ago, the NIA chief was addressing a press conference in which he has gone to the extent of naming all the evidences that has been handed over to them, so that they see into the mirror and realize what they have done. And in fact, if you go into the newspapers a few days, very correctly they have stated that in fact the JIT has been rendered speechless after confronting the evidences that the NIA presented to them. So naturally, there are two things. One, we move towards our aim of seeing to it that the perpetrators are punished, and if, as you all would be saying, that Pakistan never learns from its mistake, this is how Pakistan is, Pakistan will never punish despite collecting all the evidences, because that's what has happened in the past, then well, Vikram, we will call the bluff of Pakistan internationally. Look, we followed all the protocols, gave them the legal requirement, but this is what is Pakistan, and then what we do is our step.
All right. Let me get everyone else's take on what you've just said, starting with you, Manishankar Iyer.
We've asked our 8 questions on the 28th of March through our spokesman, Shri Randeep Sarjewala. There has been no response, to the best of my knowledge, to those 8 questions. And so long as those 8 questions are not answered upfront and straightforwardly by the government, indeed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself, as demanded by our official spokesman, there will be cynicism on the Indian side, on the Congress side. However, I do think it is important for us to move at this stage beyond these polemics and go back to the origins of what has happened. And I would say the origins of the present visit of the JIT to India, the Pakistani JIT to India, lie in the agreement that was reached between Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and President Musharraf in Havana in September 2006, where the two agreed to put in place, and I quote, an India-Pakistan anti-terrorism institutional mechanism to identify and implement counter-terrorism initiatives and investigations. We also said, when the two foreign secretaries met, that these counter-terrorism measures should include regular and timely sharing of information. Now, after Bombay took place, the first thing that the Prime Minister of Pakistan did was to ring our Prime Minister and offer to send his Director General of the ISI. We accepted that. It was Pakistan that withdrew the offer, and after that things went completely haywire. Now I think the situation has come where we need to recognize that a confrontational attitude towards these investigations is not going to lead to a successful prosecution.
So you don't have a problem with the fact that an ISI officer actually did come to Pathankot?
I personally have none.
You personally have none. All right, Shehzad, Vice Air Chief Marshal Shehzad Chaudhry, let me just get your take, and I'm going to come to what Pakistan's been saying with regard to Mr. Yadav in a couple of minutes. But the fact that the JIT has come and is looking into Pathankot, and as I'm saying, it's happened at a time when we've just seen the blocking of the banning of Masood Azhar. In your view, is this a sincere intention by Pakistan to really try and find out what happened in Pathankot, and B, to actually punish whoever the perpetrator might have been? And if that perpetrator is Masood Azhar or somebody high up in the JEM, then Pakistan will follow it through all the way, unlike what has happened with Hafiz Saeed and his ilk earlier in the day.
Well, you made a number of assumptions there and a number of conclusions there. But as far as the principle is concerned, I think it is one of the most significant step forwards between Pakistan and India in terms of trying to grapple with this problem of cross-border terrorism, alleged cross-border terrorism or terrorism on either sides. So therefore, that's a fact that we need to grapple with and work together with. And I think the joint anti-terror mechanism was a good format. Unfortunately, it got thrown out the moment Mumbai happened, and we just let it throw out. We threw it out of the window. But now that we made a fresh start, and especially Pathankot is a test case. Now, at what point do we take it to? We get to the roots of it, whether we reach Masood Azhar or not. It's going to be an incremental process. And I think as long as we let that process take place, and I'm quite glad and happy to see that both India and Pakistan continue to work on those despite difficulties elsewhere. So I think that gives me hope in the sense that if we continue to realize the fact that yes, we have a common threat and we need to grapple with it and we need to fight it together, I think the light at the end of the tunnel is there, very much there for us to be able to move towards the direction. All
right, Mr. Parthasarathi, let me just get all of you in on this as well. So, I mean, as part of all of this, we are even hearing from Amit Shah saying, I believe that for the first time, Pakistan is making serious efforts in investigating a terror case. Would you share that optimism?
I would be more cautious. Having dealt with Pakistan, I succeeded Mani in Indira Gandhi's time in Karachi, and thereafter as High Commissioner in Islamabad. There is a very strong nexus between the military and the terrorist groups. Political leaders, including the Prime Minister, count for nothing. The links with the Jaish-e-Mohammed are not quite as strong as the links with the Lashkar-e-Taiba. But let us not forget that the Jaish-e-Mohammed was responsible for an attempt to assassinate Musharraf, and that was acknowledged by Lieutenant General Jawad Ashraf Qazi, a former DG of the ISI in the Pakistan Parliament. So the Jaish is very heavily protected by the military establishment. What I would say is the following. So far, we have given them everything to the extent that nobody in the world can now tell us we have not cooperated. I have my serious doubts, based on my long experience, whether they will go to the full extent. They may arrest one or two chota-mota chokras, but are they going to touch Masood Azhar? Are they going to touch the leadership? My answer is, I fear still no. So second, I think despite this, we need to contain a process of engagement. I don't agree that the joint anti-terror mechanism was a worthwhile effort. Additional secretaries don't resolve these problems. What is better now is the two national security advisors and the foreign secretaries are keeping in touch. But again, let us wait till the snows melt in the Himalayas. We'll know to what extent infiltration will resume. They will play it cool and offer cooperation. But the real proof of the pudding is going to be in the eating. We can't be carrying this so long. Don't forget, we got so concentrated on this. We've forgotten about the attacks in Mumbai in 1993 and 2008. They are hoping that precisely you drag this on, we'll forget about this also. We have a short memory span.
Okay. Would you agree with what Mr. Parthasarathi said? And specifically, but he's talking about Masood Azhar, because frankly, for Pathankot to really work its way out, and assuming that the smoking gun is pointing to the JEM, it means taking some action against Masood Azhar. And given the timing of what's happened to the United Nations with China blocking his banning, would you be more skeptical?
The Pakistani investigators have come to India, not for the first time. They came in 2012 and 2013 to investigate the Mumbai terror attack case. What happened in that case? No one has been brought to justice. Now, if anybody believes that the Pakistanis are going to bring anybody to justice in the Pathankot case, that person probably has been spending too much time reading about Alice in Wonderland. I'm more concerned about India's naivete. Forgetting Mumbai terror attacks of 2008, now we are demanding that Pakistan take action in the Pathankot case. When the next major terror attack happens in India, Pathankot will be forgotten. With India remaining focused on the last major terror attack, it is no surprise that Pakistan has failed to deliver even on the 1993 so-called Bombay bombings that remain till today the worst terrorist attack in India. We're talking about Pakistan's involvement. That's apparent. It's about Indians augmenting to India's woes by treating this issue in a very cavalier manner. Now, by inviting Pakistani investigators to come to India to cooperate in criminal investigations, we have turned cross-border terrorism into a law and order issue, a policing issue. It is not a policing issue. It's a strategic issue whereby terrorists reared and sponsored by state actors in Pakistan carry out attacks in India. By inviting Pakistani investigators to come to India and to come to the crime scene and to aid Indian investigations and hoping that they will go back home and act against the sponsors and perpetrators of that act, India has done two things. One, first, it has underlined or accepted tacitly at least that cross-border terrorism is a law and order issue rather than a tool of strategic policy for Pakistan. More importantly, India has bought lock, stock and barrel the myth that terror groups like Jaish and Lashkar are independent of the Pakistani state. And worse still, what are the Pakistani investigators looking at in India? They're looking at the Pakistani fingerprints of the Pathankot attackers, fingerprints that the Indians have uncovered. In other words, we are helping the Pakistanis
to figure out how not to leave fingerprints.
Exactly.
In the future.
We are enabling Pakistan on Indian soil how to learn not to leave
any
telltale signs in future attacks.
All right.
And I think the Indian naivete is so apparent and so shocking that I'm disturbed that this entire debate focuses on mundane issues.
Okay, fine, Brahma. Sambit, let me just throw what Brahma just said to you, and also part of what the Congress Party's reaction and attack was that, in a sense, by allowing that the clear line of no distinction between state and non-state actors in Pakistan has been breathed suo moto by the BJP government in favor of the Pakistani army and the ISI. Would you agree? I mean, you heard what Brahma Chalani had to say, and the fact that ISI members are there in the team, do you think this entire question of, these are non-state actors and have nothing to do with the state, that particular line has now been endorsed, in a sense, by India?
Now, I'll give you a distinction. With my limited knowledge, when the government says that, well, this is a distinction between state actors and the non-state actors, or the government doesn't do this, let me give you an example. Remember when the Pakistani army had in fact ambushed the Indian army and had beheaded the Indian army, thereafter the defense minister of the country then, Mr. A.K. Antony, made a statement saying that some people wearing the army fatigue had attacked the Indian army and beheaded some of our Jawans. So that was when BJP objected, saying that this is a classic case where Indian state is saying that the non-state actors of the Pakistani were the ones who were involved in beheading the Indian army. Because you were saying that, well, there are some people who were dressed in army fatigues. Over here, in this case, in JIT case, look, Remember, we all have to agree on one point, that there are two situations. Either there is a war or there is a proxy war. As far as India and Pakistan is concerned,
That's not true
we
also.
all know
That's-
that there is
that's
no
an
war
absurd
right
assumption,
now.
you know.
It's a situation.
And that's an absurd
in
absurdity.
a situation, we have to have strategic proxy takes, you know. And in this particular case, when we have 2611 or we have Pathankot, the strategy of the country has to be, we have to get the terrorists punished. We have to expose Pakistan internationally as well.
Okay.
So when a JIT comes to this country, we first think that, well, Pakistan for the first time has accepted that, well, the perpetrators are from our place, has willfully said that we would cooperate. Let's see if it does not, we'll call the bluff. And the step thereafter, I would not be privy to the step that the government would take thereafter.
All right,
but I'm sure this is not a
Before I
majboot
go back to
sarkar. This is a
Pakistan-
majboot sarkar, and the step is going to be quite an effective step.
You know,
Why
I
are
am
you
a,
smiling?
I am a great
Not you, Sambit, Mr. Parthasarathy is smiling.
I'm a great believer in not, in, carrying a big stick, but doing it quietly.